for work, I was at the Huntington Library where we had our year-end review, and I came across this book.
Belle. Oh, cute.
Of course, I'm going to look at Belle because that's my mom's name. So, but when I took a closer look at it, I said, Belle, the last mule in Gee's Bend, what is that about? So I opened it up and started reading it. And I thought this was a great book to give to my godson. But before he gets the book as a gift, I'm going to read it to you today as my presentation for Black History Month. That will go into the sermon. So, you get to hear my voice today instead of someone else's reading the book. I tried to get someone on YouTube, but it didn't have as powerful relation as I wanted to read it to you here today. So the book is entitled Belle, the Last Mule at Gee's Bend. It says, Alex sat on a bench outside the store. He wanted to go and play, but his mother had told him to wait for her. There it was nothing to do on the porch but watch an old mule eating up the garden across the street. There was no breeze, not a leaf moved in all the China berry trees. It was so still that Alex could hear the mule munching on the roll of bright collard greens. He watched as the mule's big fuzzy ears twitched away a pesky fly. You know, I gotta hand it to teachers. They did this for us for years. An old woman walked slowly up the wooden steps on the store and sat on the bench next to Alex. She fanned herself with a folded newspaper. He looked out at her at the corner of his eye. She was watching the mule, too. The old woman chuckled and then said in a soft voice, Myself, I like collards cooked with some ham and spiced with vinegar. Alex smiled. I was just thinking how that old mule sure can eat collard greens, said the woman. Is it allowed to? I mean, eat someone's garden like that? Asked Alex. Oh, Belle, she can have all the collard greens she wants. She earned it. This woman looked straight at Alex and said, I let her loose, you see. And that's my garden. I thought I'd just sit here in the shade and rest a bit before I shooed her out. But ma'am, why do you let the mule eat your collard plants? Well, my name is Miss Pettyway, son, she said. And yours? I'm Alex, he answered. Well, Alex, there's enough greens in my garden for both of us. Belle is a very special mule. She's a hero in Gee's Bend, and I would like to show her some respect. Well, what's so special about an old mule? Alex asked as he stood up. The woman took a deep breath. Now, that's a long story, but if you have some time to sit, she patted the bench. Alex hesitated. He wondered if it was just a crazy old lady, but he was curious after all. There was nothing else to do. Gee's Bend has always been poor, she began. There's not much here but farmland. We always needed mules to help us work the land. Not many of us could afford a car. How could you get around anywhere? Alex asked. Well, that's just it. Benders. That's what we call ourselves here. Use mules to haul almost everything. Belle has been with us for many years now. She was here the day Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came and spoke to us, way back in 1965. I know about Dr. Martin Luther King from school. Did you get to meet him? Asked Alex. Oh, yes, sir. I did. That night it was a terrible storm, and lots of people thought he wouldn't make it to see us poor folks. I waited not far from here with Belle. It was past midnight when Dr. King finally arrived, but he still spoke to us that night and nearly took the roof off of Pleasant Grove Baptist Church with his wonderful words. What did he say? Asked Alex. Well, in those days, we had a ferry to cross the river into Camden, where there was jobs and stores. Dr. King told us to take the ferry to Camden and register to vote across the river for freedom. We sang out that night, even though we were poor dirt farmers, descendants of slaves with only mules to carry the loads, he said. I came over here to Gee's Bend to tell you that you are somebody. He told us that we had the right to vote. You understand, Alex, back then, no black person from Wilcox County would ever dare to vote. Were you scared? Asked Alex. Miss Pettyway sighed and thought for a moment. I don't think we were scared, not after Dr. King spoke to us. We felt strong like our mules, and we did just what he told us to do. Many went to register and almost swamped the ferry. Some benders went to march with Dr. King in Selma, Montgomery, and Birmingham. And on the march on Washington. Benders are loyal like mules too, Miss Pennywise added, chuckling. We read about all those marches in school, Alex added. But we must have been scared of the white folks in Camden, because the next thing we knew, they shut down the ferry. The white sheriff was big and burly, who wanted us to keep in our place. He told reporters we didn't close the ferry because they were black. We closed the ferry because they forgot that they were black.
Oh, whoa. Wow.
So when it came time to vote, we had no way to cross the river. But we wouldn't be stopped. Benders, like old Belle here, are not fancy, but strong and steady and stubborn. We filled our few cars with as many people who could fit. Then our mules carried us, wagging loads of people around the river all day to vote. It took half a day to get there, but it was worth it. We sang and clapped all the way into town. Folks in Camden were so surprised. You showed them, Alex laughed. Is that why Belle is your hero? There's more to it. A lot of people lost their jobs in Camden because we voted. Things got bad. With no jobs, we had no money for food. So some of us joined the Freedom Quilting Bee in Alberta, and eventually we started our own. We called ourselves Gee's Bend Quilters. You see, the women of Gee's Bend have always made quilts. Some of the most beautiful quilts in the world were made right here. Soon, there would have been sold all over the United States. We became famous. That is why I'm here. My mother came here to shop for a quilt today, Alex explained. And I'm sorry, back up. That's why I'm here. My mother came here to shop for a quilt today, Alex explained. That's why, that's a happy ending, isn't it?
Chrissy, how you spelling Gee's Ben?
It's G-E-E.
Oh, okay.
But that is not the end of the story for Belle. Miss Pennywise's voice turned softer. Alex, do you remember learning in school what happened on the 4th of April, 1968? Alex looked into Miss Pennywise's eyes and saw how they looked. That's when Dr. King got shot, isn't it? He asked. For the first time, he felt sadness himself. Yes. Everyone in Gee's Bend grieved. Miss Pennywise took a deep breath and looked out at the trees. A slight breeze seemed to shuffle the leaves. We got the phone call asking for our mules could pull Dr. King's coffin through the streets of Atlanta during the funeral parade. Their time worked hard he wanted to use our mules through the streets of Atlanta during the funeral parade. He wanted to use mules, not fancy draft horses. Mules take their time, work hard, and they never back down. Mules aren't pretty, but they are somebody. It meant so much to us that the Benders could honor the memory of Dr. King. Belle and another mule named Ada were loaded into a truck and began their journey to Atlanta. But as usual, it was not going to be easy. State policemen stopped the truck and asked the drivers to show a permit for hauling livestock across state lines. They threatened to arrest the drivers when they didn't have the papers. They told them they'd have to turn back. We got the word to Dr. King's headquarters in Atlanta about what had happened. They called the state police and the governor of Alabama and Georgia. They told them that it would look shameful on TV and all the news all over the nation if we refused to let our mules pull the funeral train. After that, the troopers escorted Mule and Ida right down to Atlanta. Belle pulled Dr. Martin Luther King's coffin. Did Belle pull Dr. Martin Luther King's coffin? Asked Alex. Yes, sir. Belle and Ida bravely pulled the wagon 3.5 miles through the streets that were covered with full of grieving, weeping people. As they passed, the people reached out to touch the mules and the casket. Imagine thousands of arms and hands reaching out to them, but they kept moving, slow and steady. They didn't back down nor get scared, just kept going. The funeral was televised around the world. 60,000 people gathered at Ebenezer's Baptist Church, and tens of thousands lined the streets. They were very proud, and that's why we love our last mule at Gee's Bend, and why I let Belle eat all the collard greens she wants. Alex and Miss Pennywise turned and looked at old Belle, who stopped her munching and looked up at them. They both laughed. Yep, she's had her fill, Miss Pennywise said, slowly rising off the bench. Want to go meet her? Yes, ma'am. Alex skipped down the steps and over to Belle, who let him touch her fuzzy ears. Alex looked into the mule's eyes and thought about the history she had seen. Thank you for telling me about Belle, Alex said. Now you know what Dr. King meant when he told us, even though we led simple, hard lives, we are somebody, she said. And even an old mule can be a hero. Alex added, Miss Pennywise smiled and walked away, leading Bill behind her. And this is the back where she's going home.
Is that it?
That's it.
Yeah.
Now this is the actual picture of Belle and her cohort pulling the casket of Dr. Martin Luther King. You see as they are led here by the men here, and of course this man is the one that helped bring the mules to Atlanta.
Oh.
But imagine that,
Oh.
and those
Which mule
mules
is
just kept on going. This one's Belle.
Something as simple as meals. They put them all.
Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that story. I know I did when I first saw it and read it in the library. I thought it would be something great to share, and a story that I didn't know that
That should be required reading for everyone.
it should. So as we celebrate Black History Month and we celebrate the achievements of our ancestors and of our friends and family members here in this day and age, it shows us one simple truth. That no matter where you come from, who you are, what your family genetics are, God can use you.
Amen.
In Deuteronomy 7, verse 7, Deuteronomy 7, verse 7, turn there if you've got your Bibles or your phone. And in this chapter, in this book, God is telling his people why he chose them and why he chose the nation of Israel to be his special treasure. And he said, the Lord did not set his heart on you and chose you because you were numerous than other nations, for you were the smallest of all nations. Rather, it was simple that the Lord loves you, and he was keeping his oath with your sworn ancestors. It goes on to say how the Lord rescued you from slavery and from the oppressive hand of Pharaoh in Egypt. We too, as African Americans, can definitely relate to that. We too were in bondage for 400 years, and we too were rescued by the hand of God. And that is why, as African Americans, especially in the generations of our fathers and grandfathers and so on and so forth, God was the chief cornerstone in every home. And that's how we got over.
Amen.
We didn't get over by strength of arms. We didn't get over by brilliant intellect, even though, as we were shown today in the previous presentations, just how smart and powerful we are, down to the salt that you put in the shaker to put on your food, is an invention of a black man. From the remote control to a famous super soaker to the red, yellow, and green traffic light was a black man. Uses for peanut butter was a black man. Down to the factories in which this country was built on was from the head of a black man. To the White House, built by slaves, designed by a Frenchman who took his money and left. And that black slave, the son of a prince, with a photographic memory, 3 days later, gave you what we now call Washington, D.C. That was not because we were smart. That is not because we are descendants from the kings of the Mali and Egyptian and Zulu empires. That was because God allowed it.
Amen.
For his purpose, for his plan. Tupac said in a song 20 years ago that this country wasn't ready for a black president. The name of the song was I Wonder If Heaven's Got a Ghetto. Take some time to listen to the lyrics. Ignore the cussing. Get the meaning. Eat the fish, spit out the bone.
Okay.
20 years later, we have a black president. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. And for many in the country, he is what we would call a standard in which we would want our president to be. But Barack Obama did not become president because of his great intellect or the fact that he was the editor of the Harvard Law Review. He became the first black president because he was chosen by God a long time ago to be that president. And I'm not talking about the day the sperm hit the egg. Nope. I'm talking about thousands of millions of years ago when God the Father wrote out the architectural plan of the universe.
Amen.
You were thought of and conceived thousands of years ago. Who you are and what you are was implanted in your DNA before your parents were even born.
Yes.
Remember, little flock, each one of you have a special place in the heart of the Lord, in his plan. Only you can do what he's asked you and ordained you to do. What I do, Valerie can't do for me. What Valerie has to do, I can't do for Valerie. What Minister Gaines and Deacon Gaines have to do, I can't do that. Neither can Brian, Ty, or First Lady, or even Pastor.
Amen.
Everybody has their place. And the job that he has assigned for you, only you can do it. So don't think because you may have came from a poor background, a divided home, drug abuse, poverty, that you are not somebody. That you can't make a difference. Three of the greatest presidents we've ever had in this nation came from broken homes. Why did God choose the Israelites? Because they were low. And he made them great. So we can say, if he can do it for them, he definitely can do it for us. In 1 Corinthians 28:31, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, starting in verse 28. It says, 1 Corinthians 1, verse 28.
Amen.
It said, God chose things despised by the world, things counted as nothing at all, and used them to nothing what the world considers important. As a result, no one can boast in his presence. In some translations it says that he takes the base things so that no man can boast. African Americans for years in this country and fell around the world have been despised. At one point, a man was considered 1/5 of a man. We were less than cattle. We were treated as such. The horrific things that happen in slavery, they'll either make you mad or make you cry. But guess what? God used those base things, the things that people despise, and made them great so that we as people cannot boast. We know what it is to have a relationship with the Lord. That's what brought us over. From those slave ships to those plantations to the White House, the highest seat and power in the land. That was not by chance, happenstance, or luck.
Preach.
It was by the mercy of God.
Amen.
So that we know that it is not us that do anything, but it is His Spirit in us
Amen.
that allows us to be the instrument, the vessel used in order to make things great for human beings, for mankind. You are not blessed to bless yourself. You are blessed to bless others.
Amen.
I want to leave you with this. We as African Americans have reached higher heights and have come from very low and humble beginnings. But I want you to remember this, little flock. You and everyone around the world. Remember that you all are kings and queens and priests by birth, by birthright. Remember that, who you are. You are somebody. You are royalty. And you should treat yourself and demand that same respect and love. And the reason why you are born kings and queens is because your Father in heaven is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Amen.
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 Amen.